Hi, I'm Scott Williford, and we're back with our guest, Howard Flint of Ghost Partner. Howard, thank you for sticking around.
Yeah, no problem.
So when we broke off last time, Howard was telling us a little bit about some of the ways that he's gone from a very vertical focus in working with his clients to a more horizontal or broader focus. So
Right.
what are some of the other verticals that you're going into?
Well, you know, again, we can get almost anything written. So any kind of, you know, I mentioned dentistry a while ago, could be chiropractic. Almost anything we can do because we work with professional writers. And that's what a professional writer does.
Right.
We give them a subject matter and they can research it and they can come back with a great article. We always dig into the client a little bit. We try to find his or her voice, how he or she wants to, you know, portray the business. And then we can get good enough writers to deliver that kind of content. So we're really exploring a lot of areas that we can go into.
You know, I know that from doing this for ourselves a little bit, that the hardest thing for me is to really be consistent. And so once you have that voice defined and you understand your subjects, you know, how do you make sure that your client stays consistent, or what are some advice that you give to your clients, and how do you get them there?
If you're setting off on a blog, maybe once, twice a week, or a newsletter once a month, it can seem really daunting. And so a lot of people don't even start. So the first thing we do is we set up an editorial calendar. And so we say, well, look, let's talk about what subjects you want to cover, Scott, and let's go into those a little bit, maybe make some bullet points. Whenever we're working with a client, there's always an interview process, certainly to begin it, and then there's constant communication between the editors and the client to make sure that we're always delivering, we're always staying on subject, and also to stay up with anything that comes up that they want covered. We always want to do this in pencil because things change, and if something comes up, they say, hey, you know, there's this current topic, we want to cover it.
So if I'm like in the rocket ship building business,
yes, right,
and there's some new technology, then you would obviously help shift and help. The client's going to say, hey, Howard, we need to do something on this specific thing. So when you're dealing with the editorial calendar, as you were talking, I was thinking, how far out do you recommend? I mean, obviously there's some flexibility. You said do it in pencil, but how far out do you recommend that people think in terms of?
Well, it depends. If it's a monthly newsletter, let's do the whole year. That's 12 subjects. We want to get that. And if it's a twice a week blog, that's a lot of content. Maybe we're only going to go out a few months, because usually once you get started, you can see maybe the client says, you know, now that I've got it, here's some changes, some little directional things. So we want to be able to keep that fluid for the client.
Well, and in our first segment, we talked about how it becomes archived anyway. So do you sometimes go back and review or revisit and update articles as news changes?
We certainly can. We certainly can. And you know, the other thing we want to keep in mind too is the keywords that are important to the client.
Right.
Because we want to go back, and as those change, we might go back to an old article, revise it using a different string or a different phrase that they want to be pulled up with in Google or Bing when they get searched. So we want to make sure that that's really important when we start creating all this content.
Now, I know, because you and I were talking, that social media is a big part of it, but it's also email marketing and email newsletters, how that's still a very prominent part of interactive marketing today.
Right.
So you partner with Constant Contact,
That's correct. That's correct.
And so they've got some great tools that you work with your clients, right?
Absolutely. No, we've been a partner with Constant Contact since 2007. And they really have evolved into almost a content publishing platform. I mean, they still say we're email marketing, but because now you can put some content in there, and you can send it out by email newsletter, because you probably still have a lot of clients depending on your industry, but you can also simultaneously publish that same content to Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook.
Right.
So now that really has automated a lot of your content distribution, because getting it written is only half of it. Now we have to get it out and make sure all your different kinds of audiences have access to it.
Well, and Constant Contact is one of the leaders in the industry, but there are others out there. So, you know, I think there's some things that we can continue to talk about on the frequency and stuff like that. So why don't we take a quick break, and then we'll come back. I'm Scott Williford, CEO and founder of vLink Solutions. We hope that this content is valuable to you. We look forward to hearing about your successes. And we'll be back in our next segment with Howard Flint of Ghost Partner.